Welcome to The Debate. Today we are staring down the barrel of a phenomenon that is, well, it's either the necessary evolution of the engineering species or it's a systemic gaslighting of the entire technology workforce. We're talking about the software engineer expectations trap. We're really going to dissect this widening chasm between the staggering technical demands on developers and the often fractured, arguably exploitative reality of the hiring industry.
Gaslighting is the charitable term. I'd call it a cliff edge. I mean, we're looking at a market that is demanding unicorns, engineers who are expected to be experts in everything from kernel-level debugging to AI prompt engineering, while treating their time as an infinite free resource. It's a setup where the goalposts aren't just moving, they're being teleported to a different stadium entirely.
And that is the central tension we're exploring. Is the industry simply evolving to demand this new tier of super engineers empowered by AI? Or, as you suggest, have we created a toxic system of title inflation and unpaid labor that's burning out a whole generation of talent? To ground this, we're looking at the Sachin Chitra Playbook. This is a document, circulating in the industry that effectively outlines the curriculum required just to pass a modern full-stack interview.
And calling it a curriculum makes it sound like a semester at university. It's not. It is a ransom note for your career. The playbook suggests 40 hours of deep study for a 10-year veteran just to get in the room. We're talking about mastering Java, React, Kafka, cloud security, and now the cherry on top, generative AI. We're also pulling from the Indeed Hiring Lab, Hacker News, and academic studies from UCI on the mental health toll this is taking.
Right. So I'm representing the perspective that this is a hybrid transformation. The bar is rising because the tools are better. AI is elevating the role from coder to architect, and that requires a broader skill set. It's painful, but it's progress.
And I'm taking the position that this is a hazing ritual. We're seeing a preparation tax levied on workers, creating a mental health crisis where mid-level pay comes with staff-level expectations. It's high demand, low control, and it's breaking people.
Let's start right there with the preparation tax. You look at the Sachin Chitra Playbook and see an impossible burden. I look at it and I see, well, a rational response to complexity. The playbook outlines deep knowledge in, Java collections, microservices patterns like Saga and Circuit Breaker, React hooks, and now a massive section on AI and LLMs.
Okay, but before you just glaze over those terms, let's be clear about what you just listed. Saga and Circuit Breaker aren't just buzzwords. These are complex architectural patterns used to ensure data consistency when you have like 50 different microservices talking to each other. Mastering those takes years of failures in production. And you're saying a candidate needs to review that, plus the latest React hooks for the front end, plus how a large language model works, all in a week of prep?
Yes, because that is the job now. I mean, Indeed's AI at Work report explicitly states that 81% of software development skills are facing hybrid transformation. The role is changing. We aren't just writing boilerplate code anymore. AI does that. The human needs to understand the system architecture, how Kafka talks to the database, how the front end handles state. If a candidate can't demonstrate that breadth, they just aren't ready for the modern role. It is not about hazing. It's about filtering for context.
Context is valuable, I'll grant you that. But let's look at the cost of that filter. You mentioned the playbook suggests 40 hours of prep. That is a full work week of unpaid labor just to get your foot in the door. We are suffering from a free time fallacy. Companies act as if a candidate's time is free inventory. They treat professional time like it's a hobby.
Companies are risk-averse. They need to know what they're buying.
There's risk-averse, and then there's pathological. Look at the Economic Times story that went viral recently. A candidate went through 7 rounds of interviews. 7 rounds, plus 2 assessments. This individual was transparent from day one about being self-employed. And at the very end, after weeks of process, they rejected him solely because of that status, something they knew at the start.
Okay, that is admittedly a process failure. That's bureaucracy gone wrong.
It's a systemic failure. That candidate actually invoiced the company for his time and they paid it, which is the only shocking part of the story. But most people can't do that. Paraform data shows the median time to hire is now 41 days. For the slowest 10%, it's 82 days. That is nearly 3 months. And seniors take 20% longer than juniors. You are asking people to commit months of their lives, essentially gambling their time for a process that's often just capricious. That isn't rigor, it's exploitation.
I see why you frame it as exploitation, but let me offer a different perspective on those timelines. Hiring a bad engineer is incredibly expensive. We aren't talking about a few $1,000s. Some estimates say a bad hire, someone who introduces security flaws or brings down production, can cost a company hundreds of thousands of dollars in lost productivity and retraining. The preparation tax, as you call it, is an investment.
An investment by whom? The candidate is the one paying.
It's an investment in their own relevance. Java Brains makes a compelling point that the engineers who thrive in this new era won't be the ones who are best at prompting AI, they'll be the ones who understand the full system. That 40 hours of prep isn't just for the interview, it's refreshing the fundamental knowledge required to be that T-shaped developer who can actually use AI safely. If you don't know how the circuit breaker pattern works, you can't ask the AI to implement it correctly.
But are they actually looking for T-shaped developers, or are they looking for a mythical creature? Let's move to the core debate on this unicorn myth. Because T-shaped implies you are deep in one thing and broad in others. The job descriptions we are seeing derived from the playbook want you to be deep in everything.
I would argue the unicorn is just a pejorative term for a competent generalist.
No, I disagree strongly. The playbook and the job descriptions derived from it are asking for true mastery across the board. You have to be a back-end expert in Java and Kafka. You have to be a front-end expert in React and Next.js. You have to be a DevOps expert in Kubernetes. And now you have to be an AI expert who understands RAG, retrieval-augmented generation, and prompt engineering. As the dev community article, A Full-Stack Developer is a Myth, points out, this is mathematically impossible.
Mathematically impossible is a bit of a stretch.
Is it? The rate of change in the front-end ecosystem alone, React updates, new build tools like Vite, changes in CSS frameworks, is faster than one human can master while also keeping up with cloud architecture. If you spend your time mastering the back end, your front-end skills decay. If you master the front end, you miss the boat on AI. Asking for one person to be a staff-level expert in all of it is absurd.
The dev community article also admits that full stack doesn't mean knowing every API by heart. It means understanding the data flow from user input to database. That's what the playbook is trying to standardize. And here is the variable you are ignoring: the tools. The source material mentions tools like Cursor and Codo. These are AI-integrated coding environments.
Tools that write code for you.
Tools that bridge the gap. I can write React code now, even if my background is Java, because the AI handles the syntax. I don't need to memorize the use-effect hook perfectly. The AI drafts it. The expectation is that I understand the architecture of that React component, not that I've memorized the library. The T-shaped model is more attainable now than ever because of AI. The AI flattens the learning curve for the syntax, allowing the human to focus on the system.
That sounds nice in theory, this idea that AI makes us all super geniuses, but the reality on the ground is just panic. Look at the TCS, Tata Consultancy Services situation referenced in our sources. You have 15-year veterans, deep experts in Java, being given 35 days to become AI experts via generic videos on LinkedIn Learning.
That's a pivot. Companies pivot.
That isn't a pivot. That's setting people up to fail. You cannot become an expert in generative AI in 35 days by watching videos while maintaining your current workload. That isn't creating T-shaped developers, that's title inflation. You're taking a specialist, dumping 3 other job descriptions on them, front-end, DevOps, AI, calling them a full-stack architect, and paying them the same salary. You are expecting SaaS-level output from mid-level bay.
I would frame that TCS shift differently. It's not panic, it's survival. The industry is moving away from the traditional service pyramid towards global capability centers, or GCCs, that demand higher value. The hidden villains destroying careers are complacency and obsolescence. If 81% of skills are facing hybrid transformation, staying a Java specialist is a career death sentence. The expectation has risen, yes,
but so has the leverage a single developer has. We have to be honest with people. The era of the single language specialist is closing.
But where does it end? Let's talk about how these expectations play out in the interview room, because this is where the hazing really happens. It's not just about what you know, it's about how you are tested. We have a Hacker News story about a Google PM director, someone with 25 years of experience. He goes into an interview and they ask him a Fermi problem.
A classic estimation problem. For the listeners, a Fermi problem is something like, how many piano tuners are there in Chicago? It's meant to test your ability to break down a problem logically.
Right. So they ask him, estimate Google's annual storage costs. This is a director-level candidate. He walks them through the logic. Video sizes, resolution formats, redundancy, cold storage versus hot storage. He gives a nuanced architectural answer. The interviewer cuts him off and demands a single dollar value.
They wanted a number.
They wanted a parlor trick. When the candidate tries to explain the variables, he gets rejected. This highlights the disconnect. We're using whiteboard algorithms and leak code problems, inverting binary trees, calculating storage costs on a napkin that have zero correlation to the daily work of a modern engineer. You just argued that AI handles the syntax and the boilerplate. So why are we testing people on their ability to memorize algorithms that haven't changed since the 1970s?
I'm not convinced it's arbitrary. It is a proxy for conscientiousness. We know that lead code doesn't map one-to-one to daily work. You probably won't invert a binary tree to build a shopping cart app. But it does map to willingness to study and ability to solve abstract problems under pressure.
A proxy for obedience, maybe?
Because finding a 2 Sigma candidate, that 10x engineer, is so valuable, companies accept a high rate of false negatives. They would rather reject a good candidate like that PM director than hire a bad one. It's a harsh filter, but a necessary one to maintain a density of talent. If you lower the bar on abstract problem solving, you end up with code monkeys who can't handle scale.
Density of talent is a convenient excuse for a broken process. You're filtering for people with free time to grind leet code, not people who can build software. And this constant pressure to prove oneself, to grind, to spend your nights and weekends studying the playbook just to stay in the same place. It's having a devastating human cost. We need to talk about the mental health crisis.
I agree that burnout is an issue, but we have to ask, is it the interview process causing it or the work itself?
It's the combination. The Haystack Analytics study cited in our material is terrifying. 83% of developers suffer from burnout. The profession has one of the highest suicide rates. The UCI paper categorizes software engineering as a high-strain job. That is a clinical definition, high demand plus low control.
High demand, I concede. But where is the low control coming from?
From the always-on culture. Remote work has blurred the boundaries. Slack is a leash. And look at the hiring data again. Paraform says it takes 82 days to hire. That means teams are chronically understaffed. The existing engineers are drowning in technical debt, covering for empty seats while management spends 3 months hunting for a unicorn that doesn't exist. That is low control. You're responsible for the output, but you have no control over the resources.
The high-strain categorization is accurate. But let's look at why control is low. It's often because of technical debt and manual toil. This is where I argue that the expectations trap is actually the exit ramp. If we embrace the AI tools, if we use the playbook to master the architecture, we can automate the high-strain parts of the job. Paraform suggests shifting left and using contractors to alleviate pressure. The solution isn't to lower the competency bar, it's to increase the leverage of the engineer so they aren't drowning in manual work.
But you're missing the pipeline problem. Java Brains warns about the junior gap. If we use AI to automate all the junior work, the testing, the basic coding, and we expect everyone to be a staff engineer immediately, how does anyone learn? You cannot become a strategic thinker without years of doing.
That is a valid concern. The AWS CEO called eliminating junior roles one of the dumbest things for that exact reason. But the market reality, as shown in the Indeed report, is that the doing is becoming commoditized. The preparation tax is simply the cost of skipping the junior phase. We're asking engineers to self-educate to a senior level faster. It is brutal, yes, but the alternative is irrelevance.
It is not just brutal, it is unsustainable. You're asking for 10 years of experience in technologies that have existed for 3. You're asking for full-stack mastery that creates generalists who are one Webpack error away from a breakdown. We are treating human beings like inventory, literally the bench concept at TCS. We are burning the furniture to keep the house warm.
I think we need to wrap up our positions here. We're looking at the same landscape, but seeing very different horizons.
I agree. Let me summarize my side. This expectations trap is real. It is a result of companies treating candidates' time as free and refusing to train on the job. We are demanding unicorns, ignoring the preparation tax, and the result is a workforce that is burned out and resentful. Until companies recognize that full stack is a myth and stop title inflation, this crisis will only worsen.
And I maintain that what you call a trap is actually an evolutionary filter. The landscape has changed. The playbook's demand for broad competency in Java, React, and AI is simply the new baseline for a high-value role. Hiring processes are imperfect, yes, but they are trying to identify the engineers who can navigate this hybrid transformation. We're moving from code monkeys to system architects, and that requires a higher standard.
However, despite our disagreement on the cause of this pressure, we both found a glimmer of hope in the BIGO source material, a way out of the trap entirely.
Yes. We agree that while the 9-to-5 game might be rigged, or at least incredibly difficult, software engineers possess what the source calls an asymmetric advantage.
Exactly. Think about the average professional, the lawyer, the dentist, the logistics manager. They look at technology as magic. They click a button, stuff happens. But the engineer understands the machine.
Because developers understand automation and systems light years ahead of the average human, they are uniquely positioned. The BIGO source argues that the ultimate escape from the expectations trap isn't to get a better job, but to stop being an employee.
Right. The skills that companies are demanding in that playbook, the ability to build full systems, to leverage AI, to automate workflows, are the exact same skills needed to build leverage-based businesses.
So the argument is that the preparation tax helps you build your own house, not just someone else's.
Precisely. If you can master Java, React, Kafka, and AI to pass an interview, you have the technical chops to build a SaaS product or an automated agency. The trap exists for the employee who sells those skills by the hour, but the keys to the exit are in the code itself.
That is a profound thought to end on. The pressure is high, but so is the potential for independence.
A painful truth, but a hopeful one.
Indeed. Thank you for listening to the debate. We encourage you to look at the Sachin Chitre playbook and the reports from Indeed and Puriform for yourself. Is it a trap or is it a transformation?
Decide for yourself.
Until next time,